and I are patient.
Me and Sia, Smoke House. It's the urban heat. Shout out to Coach Live. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. The urban heat is calling. Conversations with Coach La 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 Coach La La. If you got something on your mind, you can call in, you can hit a line. She the realest, ooh, she the realest. You can tap in, now I will get the business. To empower you, so that you can do every and anything that you want to. Kicking it with Coach Allen, it's time to listen to conversations that's gonna get you winning. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. On the urban heat is calling. Conversations with Coach La 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 Coach La 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 La.
What's going on? What's going on, beautiful people? You tuned into another episode of Conversations with Coach La 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 right here on the Urban Heat 98.1 FM. Like I tell y'all every single week, this is radio with a purpose. And I am your favorite around the way therapist. And, you know, we're bridging communities by having dope conversations with people who are making impacts, good Lord, that are making an impact in Boston and beyond. So tonight's guest is somebody that I actually had on 2 weeks ago, maybe three. Three. Yeah, anyway, he's coming back. You know, the virtual couch must like him, or he just likes me, whichever way. He wants to have another conversation. We actually ran out of time. When you have people that come on the show that have a lot to say, the sessions go by quickly. And like that happens in real therapy too. Like all of a sudden I'm like, okay, we're at time. And you have to come back next week, honey, and we'll finish where we left off. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Now, why am I bringing him back? Because he's like most human beings, he's complex, right? There's multiple layers to this man. He's a Black man, he's a father, he's an entrepreneur, he's a leader in our community, he's a pillar of Black excellence. He has a master's in public health. I've gotten to know him. He has some pizzazz. He has definitely a personality, and he's loquacious like me, right? So he's a talker, which is why we ran out of time last time. Now, I gave you his bio in the last time he was here, but just a couple of things that I want to, definitely point out, which is Interwise, I hope I'm saying it, at Streetwise MBA Equity Contractors Training Program. He finished that. He's a graduate of that. He also is the grant awardee of the Browning, the Green Space Access Program. I mean, when I tell you this man know how to get some money, you got to show Coach how to get some grants, because he's getting all this bank right here, right? He's a 2-time graduate of the Boston Innovation Studio Launch and Create program. And he's also a graduate and a mentor of the Fairmont Innovation Lab. He just told me today that he signed the lease on his office space. So he has a lot. Oh, he's telling me don't say that. I can't say that. I can't give you accolades. I ain't supposed to tell that on the air. You got to tell Coach what I can't say. He didn't tell me that, y'all. He over here putting his finger up to his mouth. But anyways, since he want to be telling me to hush, I'm going to shut up and let him tell you about himself. I'm going to bring Mr. Hakim Cunningham is officially in the building. Welcome to another conversation with Coach La. What's up, Hakim?
Good evening. How are you? How's everything going?
You know I got a big mouth. You can't tell me stuff and then afterwards say,
I'm like, no, not yet. Let me
don't say nothing. Okay, I'm giving you your flowers.
No, I love it.
Okay,
Actually,
okay.
I appreciate you for saying that. I'm just in the beginning stages. It's probably gonna take me a few months to really turn it into something.
That's
but
all right.
Okay,
that's all right.
I recently just signed the lease, and now heading into
Okay, so
a different direction.
yeah.
But,
So listen,
but thank you.
listen, you're doing big things, black man, and you deserve your flowers. Welcome back to the virtual couch with Coach Lala.
And let me just say that the look that you have tonight, the lipstick, the glasses, the outfit, everything working. It's like
Okay, wait a minute.
you're getting your starlet on.
Wait a minute.
You're getting your starlet on.
He
I
on
saw
here
you.
trying to give me
I
some.
saw the lip gloss going on. She had the nice little
Y'all hear
you
this?
know
Listen, don't be trying to make
foundation.
me
So
uncomfortable. I don't have
she's
on any
looking
foundation.
quite regal.
This is my real skin. I have no
Oh,
makeup
well,
on,
excuse
y'all.
me. You got a great esthetician because that look.
Yes,
you look,
this is no makeup. This is no makeup.
She's
Coach.
drinking water. She's glowing.
I don't have it. Thank you, Hakim. I appreciate that. I receive all that love.
Yeah.
I don't have any makeup on, y'all. This is a non-foundation face.
Okay.
Shout out to Opal. Thanks for tuning in. Shout out to Bella. You found me, girl. I knew you would find me again. So everybody that's listening on Instagram, Facebook, iHeartRadio, LinkedIn, I love to see y'all. Wait a minute. What's going on, Keith? I see you on Instagram in Instagram land. So tonight's conversation, right? We want to talk about the intersection of fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and I want to touch a little bit this time on the adversity because we kind of left off with you talking about what therapy meant to you and how that had shaped your sense of self and the development of your identity as a Black man, because that was sort of after your divorce.
Well, not necessarily just the divorce piece, not even the relationship piece. It was more so.
What's up, Sandra? I see you.
Understanding and completely being clear about having a partnership and a relationship and with someone who understands the direction and also the drive and the passion you have for reaching your goals. And sometimes you can get with someone and the individual that you feel as though appreciates you, respects you, and is good for you in a relationship space might not necessarily be good for you for a long-term journey. They might be there for the season and not, for a long-term period of time. So I had to understand that too, because sometimes you can start to elevate and you can go to higher heights, and the individuals that you're with, they tend to fall off because they cannot operate with you at that altitude. So I've understood that part too, that if you're a driven person, sometimes people want to see you in a certain kind of way. And when they see you elevating, changing, moving into different spaces, it's something where they have to say, can I deal with this? Or at this point, do I need to break away? So I'm respectful and also appreciative of people who like walk with you on your journey and know when it's time for them to walk away because they're not able to, go to that elevated state with you.
All right.
I respect that.
You know what's interesting about what you're saying? There was something I read and then I kind of I don't know where I saw this, right? But that things are for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And I think often relationships are mirrors, right? So when we start to connect with other people, we connect with them for various reasons. And I think some spaces of our life, we attract the person that we need in that moment or in that phase that we're in. But as we evolve and we grow, sometimes they don't evolve and grow, or they're not necessarily the best fit anymore, or we're not compatible anymore. And I think that's a hard thing. Because, I know I want that old school love, that long love that you've seen people have for 20, 30 years. And I wonder sometimes
the Al Green love,
if that is actually realistic or healthy, because a lot of people have gone through a lot of things together. But then there's this part of me that goes, well, I think we have it all messed up. Like relationships is the way, it's almost like a fantasy. We don't really take into consideration folks are going to be evolving and growing, and doing life together, right? Like there's this intersection that you should be interdependent, not codependent.
I appreciate you saying that. I think one of the things that mattered to me was sometimes you can see an individual and the physical appearance and how they show up and the supportive words and the encouragement and the warm and calm conversations y'all can have is one thing. But you also have to ask yourself, is this individual healed from their past traumas? And if they're not, sometimes you're being actively out as a jet setter, go getter, socialite, whatever the case may be, that might trigger certain insecurities in them. And then those insecurities start to rise up when they feel as though you might be doing a little bit more than they think you're doing. And they're like, because sometimes people tend to think, oh, someone's in your face, or you're around this person, or this person's always at you. And it could also, how would you say, insecurities can bubble up to the surface. So you have to be careful of that.
I can see that. But I wonder, like, not even taking it to people being in your face, or even that there's a same sex or different sex love interest. But what about just the idea that your work, your passion is pulling you away from the relationship and balance? Because tonight's conversation is about the power of balance.
Yeah.
So how do you balance being in relationship with your business, giving time investment into your business, and having a partner when sometimes those two things conflict? Like, you're out here, late nights, you're building, you got to do business meetings, you got to do this, and the partner's like, well, you're not making time for the relationship.
Well, you also have to take into account that sometimes the individual you're with might want to inroad to like support you, but you have to also take time out to figure out what that inroad is. If it's something simple, as, hey, I need to get to XYZ place. Can I pack up the car and can you take me there, or can you help me unpack or unload or set up or something like that? Like, sometimes you want to bring a person in incrementally to what you're doing so they're not overwhelmed. So it could be either something simple as, finding a space for them to like pass out flyers, or, run the merch table, or, open up shop for you, or set up something, just smaller things, so that they feel included in the day-to-day activities and processes, and not just being someone that you come home to. It's like, hey, if you have the free time, why don't you roll with me here? Why don't we do this thing together? Or,
I can see that.
Or if you're more like tech savvy, like, can you run my social media page, and can you write up, my run list, so that I have some sort of structure to my day? Or can you run my calendar? Like there are individuals who are way more talented than me in certain areas where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to hand this off to you, and you can do this thing, and you will make my life a whole lot easier, because instead of wearing 12 hats, today I only got to wear 8, and you can wear 4, and we can have a happy 12 with you running 4, I'll run the other 8, and life is good.
And you know what? And that sounds so ideal. But what I often hear is that one partner puts their dreams, goals, or their business on hold, and the other partner or potential partner sucks up all the air. Like, the amount of need and support, that idea, again, because tonight's conversation is about the power of balance. How do you do that? Right? Like, I think that is the hardest thing, and balance looks different for everybody. But often what I see is that it's disproportionate. Like, if you have dreams and goals on your side and what you're working on, how do you balance the need?
Well, you also have, like, okay, so let me say this too, right? Now, if you have a partner who has put blood, sweat, tears, time, attention, focus, and organization into what they're doing, and they're at like 75 mile, 85 mile per hour, speed, and you're coming in and you're like 35, 40, you got to be mindful of the fact that this person has already made headway. And sometimes you have to be able to follow suit and say, all right, let me support this person, my lover, whoever that individual might be, partner, relationship, husband, wife, whatever the case may be. Sometimes you just got to say, okay, who has traction right now? If I have traction, then support me in my traction. And also, by supporting me in my traction, my traction can actually help expose and bring light to what you're trying to do too, and your talents. Like, everyone has different talents that can shine through, but you have to continuously put those talents out there. You have to be mindful of the fact that you're not going to strike a home run immediately. But if you keep going up the bat, you bunt, you get the base 1, base 2. Sometimes people start to realize, like, this person really has a skill set that is I can take advantage of, and this person also has a skill set that I can expose to others to give them opportunity. Because like, even recently, where we met over at Allen's spot over in the South End, I'm trying to help
Nobody
him.
knows who Alan is.
I know, of course, but we do, right? So
he talk about now he telling about our secret business meetings.
No. But that's between us. That's between. But well, all right, continue. I don't want to talk.
Okay,
about.
so let's bring it back on track because this just derailed real quick, right?
We was about to say something else.
So what I'm curious about though, because that sounds great, right? That sounds like perfect ideal world. But when you start feeling like whatever you were working on doesn't have traction, your dream is not moving, your passion is not moving.
You smiled just now. What was that about?
And your partner stuff is moving,
right?
And you just said, well, whoever's got traction should get the ball, right? I think in those moments, subtle moments, jealousy, envy, right? Or just feeling like life ain't working for me. And it's not so much that I don't want my partner to win,
right?
But I want to win too. This is my baby. This is my passion. It's not getting to where I want to be. And then that's where the resentment comes in at. But maybe if I was giving my stuff more time and attention, I would be where I need to be, right? And then because this stuff comes up in couples therapy, right?
So let me say this.
So going back before we jump, but going back because you are divorced, right? And so you have like more experience in like that realm, right? And so then, like you said, later in life, now you have another child. I'm assuming you're single. You're not with that child's mother.
Not right now. No,
not right now. So there's a possibility that this might be a circle the block. Okay.
No, it's not a circle the block. It's more so when I say not right now, meaning that I'm not with her completely, but we have this child.
Oh, here we go.
No, I'm and let me just be clear about.
I'm not with her right now, but we got this child, and I'm not with her completely. Y'all hear this?
No, I'm not with her completely. Like what
y'all
I mean
hear
by
this?
what
y'all
I mean
hear
by
this?
completely.
Y'all hear this?
What I mean by completely.
Listeners, y'all hear this? If y'all are in the chat, did y'all hear him say not completely? You're not. What is it? Partially?
Okay, let me be clear. Let me be clear what I'm saying.
Please.
So I don't trip over my words, right? When I say that, all I mean is that we're not together and we haven't been together, and I don't see us foreseeably in the future getting together, but we do have a beautiful child that we have to co-parent, right?
Bella said she heard it too.
And it doesn't mean that we're getting back together. It just means that I'm going to be lock and step and hip to hip with her for the rest of our child's life, right?
Okay, all right.
That's more
so that was a whole bunch of nothing.
No. You want to see? I think as a therapist, you want to make things fit in the box, and it doesn't. It doesn't.
It just sounds like you made it complicated.
No, it's not complicated.
I'm not with her completely. But I said, is there opportunity to circle the block? No, I'm not with her right now. Is what you said. I'm not with her right now. I'm not with her.
We can put that on the record, but we can move on.
Let's move on. So what I'm getting at is, as a Black man, entrepreneur, definitely with his head on his shoulders, you got a master's, right? They would consider you a high value. In
public policy. You said public health. I just want to correct.
Public policy correction, right? But they would consider you to be a high valued man, right? I'm still the jury's out on whether or not you're high functioning.
No. The jury is not out. I am I'm high functioning, high value, and I'm multifaceted. Like high functioning for me, I've been high functioning since I was like 13, 14 years old. I've been writing, performing, producing, doing shows, taking risks since I was a teenager. And I have individuals in the creative art space, in the activist space, and also
talk your stuff.
Space.
Go ahead, talk your stuff.
I got
pop your hood.
Like my thing is this: I have receipts, and my receipts are human beings. Like people be like, no, I know him. Brother used to get down. So it's one of those things where a person can talk,
pop and lock it. Go ahead and pop it and lock it.
Call such and such be like, yeah, old boy solid.
Okay.
And he's validated. So it's not for me.
So you're deeming yourself high functioning, high value, right? And
I hate the high function and high value piece because it puts Black men in the box. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why, right?
Does it put me in a box too?
It puts us in a box. Like high functioning and high value tends to make a person feel as though if they're not there or above that, they're less than. And you never,
Oh no, that is not what we're
and
saying.
you never want to like how would you say, you never want to like discredit people and not give them the opportunity, the space, and the grace to improve. So I appreciate when people say high functioning and high value, but then I'll be like, if I'm not, then what am I? Am I just like a me?
So from a therapeutic and clinical perspective, when you come to therapy, we talk about the impact of things on your functioning.
Yeah.
Right. Your emotional bandwidth, your emotional intelligence, your coping strategies.
Right.
So those that have high functioning abilities, manage stress, have the ability to bounce back from setbacks, manage conflict, usually effective communicators, all those type of things, right?
Yeah.
If you're low functioning and you're quick to go off the handle, you're emotionally don't have a high tolerance for things, or you don't have coping strategies, right? You need that. It's not a bad thing or a less than. It's just an area of growth.
Well, then you say it in a way where I appreciate the way you delivered that, but you also, like, when I hear it, I just feel like certain individuals don't have clear anger management strategies. Right?
Okay, but
and then not only do they not have clear anger management strategies, they don't have a place of peace and a place to go to unpack and unload the things that might become triggers and stressors to them. But it doesn't discredit the person. It's just that they haven't built a space for them to kind of diffuse all of the things that's built up in them. That's all
fairly said, but then how else might you want to describe someone who doesn't have that capacity or skill set?
Just a human going through stuff.
Just a human going through
stuff.
So I see that we found the trigger point of Hakim.
It's not a trigger point. I'm just
a human going through things.
A regular person going through stuff in America.
Okay, well, we all going through things,
right?
But not everybody handles what they go through the same way.
Right. Now that's a behavioral thing, right? Like,
so that's what I mean by functioning, though.
Well, see, because it kind of puts a person into like the realm of like robotic, non-robotic, right?
No,
you know what I'm saying? That's like when I hear it, it's like,
you're reaching here, but I get your point, right? Because people don't like labels, but at the end of the day, right? We have to be able to categorize things and understand things to compartmentalize it correctly, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's probably the most respectful way that I've seen it placed versus saying, I'm stretching here, guys. I know this isn't nice to say somebody's stupid or they're dumb or, they uncouth for just, other ways that you can say this same thing. But when you say, you know what, we need to increase your functioning, increase your emotional intelligence, increase your bandwidth for tolerance for things that you don't like, disappointment, which I think we should do better with that. What's your thoughts on that? Because you're a parent and I'm a parent. I think I'm teaching my son to deal with distress a little bit better than maybe I was taught.
Well, let me say this, right? And this is something I had to deal with a lot of family members, loved ones, is that we don't discuss wellness matter-of-factly on a week-to-week basis. Right?
Okay, explain, please.
A lot of Black families as a whole, we have a thing about the buildup where things will happen over time, and we'll keep holding on to it, and then there is either a phrase,
deflection,
right? There's either a phrase or there is a conversation that unpacks it and like everything explodes because no one had the time to like diffuse it over quiet conversations amongst loved ones so that they can kind of like get it out. Because we harbor a lot of things that we tend to want to process, but we process them with anger, we process it with destructive behavior, destructive attitude, but also like destructive habits because we don't know how to confront it with that person. We tend to always be in a space where we're like, all right, let me go out and party, let me go out and shop, Let me go out and drink. Let me go out and eat. It's all these things that you do as outlets, because the true outlet is getting that off your chest to the individual who needs to hear it. But instead of doing that, you will go around the world to cross the street.
You know what's so interesting about that? I feel clinically from what I've seen, we tend to be able to deal with anger. Anger is like an accepted emotion. We will quickly be able to say somebody pissed us off. We're angry about something. I'm mad about it. I'm disappointed, frustrated. We're really comfortable about displaying that. But like vulnerability, crying,
Right.
Shame, guilt, those ones tend to be the ones that folks have a harder time apologizing and saying that they're wrong. But I can come in here and cuss you out in a heartbeat.
Repentance.
Right.
But also we don't do repentance.
Right. But how many times have we seen that action in our community of people being angry versus somebody just expressing out loud, I'm frustrated that things aren't going my way. I need help. Or I don't like what you said. It hurt my feelings. That wasn't nice. That wasn't kind.
Right.
And if you do that, you're sensitive. If you do that,
Right.
you got to man up. If you do that, you're weak. The only emotion that we seem to be okay with displaying and everybody justifies and will, kind of can understand it is anger.
Well, when we deal with destructive behavioral patterns that have been picked up from our past, our childhood, seeing how our parents function, our grandparents function, our uncles and aunts, right? We only model the behaviors that we're used to and also that we're comfortable with, right?
That's what I'm saying.
No, I get that. But I want to add to that. But I want to add to that. We don't create intentionally safe spaces to have the conversations we need, and because of that, those conversations go unspoken and people harbor so much emotional resentment towards others when they can say to themselves, at what point do I build a safe space so we can have this conversation?
Well, how do you do that though? How do you build a safe space with people who are yelling
mediation,
and screaming,
conflict resolution? You got to get the right people around. You got to get some of the elders in the room.
How about go to therapy people? How about work on yourself? How about realize that there is a plethora of emotions, not just anger and happiness. Everybody want to be happy, right?
Like,
right.
Isn't that a part of?
I want to be happy. I want to be happy, or you're mad. But there's so many more emotions.
Yeah, there's a huge spectrum, but I think sometimes we fall on the extreme left or extreme right of how we deal with our emotions, and we have to be mindful of that. There's a happy middle that we can also take advantage of, but what we do because of some individuals being, dealing with their own ineptness, and I don't like to say ineptness in a derogatory
so it goes back
sense.
To the high function and low function.
It doesn't. See the high function. You want to frame it. You want to frame it with high function and low functioning because it's like the new buzzword, and I don't like it. It kind of detracts. It detracts from the humanness in us, where we get in this thing like, oh, this person's low functioning. No, they're not really low functioning.
But the thing is, it's really not a new buzzword.
It's the buzzword of the day. Like,
it's just that
I like
now
to stay away from things that are sexy and cute for the moment, and then they kind of burn out.
So for me, it's not a new buzzword because it's always been in my plethora. It's always been in my vocabulary as a therapist.
Got it.
Right. I use this in assessments and everything else. I think mainstream media, society maybe is now getting hip.
Right.
But I'm always talking about anger as a secondary emotion. For most people, they don't know that. Right. They don't understand. Okay, I'm angry, but it didn't start there. Anger is something that builds up. It rises up. It's like shaking a soda bottle. And then eventually you let the top off, and the top coming off and all the fizz popping out is the anger. But the shaking of the bottle is what started the pressure.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just feel like when we talk about creating a safe space, like right now we got a little loud. Like Black folks, we like to get loud, right? We start getting loud. People,
and we can move on after this too.
You know what I'm saying?
I know we have a lot to cover, and we only got an hour. So
then you'll just come back a third time. So
she's like,
we cut each other off, and for a lot of people, that's a big deal. Like you're cutting me off. You're not listening to me.
Right.
And so part of creating a safe space is to be able to actively listen right? And right now I'm not doing a great job of that. You know, I kind of stepped out of my therapist hat for a second, because actively listening would have been to calm down and repeat back what I heard Hakim say.
The sweetness,
and
sweetness.
not,
I love it.
and
I
not
love it.
cut him off, right? But here's the thing, I can acknowledge that. I can say right now that wasn't the best way to engage in a conversation with you, right? And that I should allow you to finish what you're saying, right? I should digest it, repeat it back to you, make sure I heard
Process
you correctly,
you
know, get clarity from you that I received the information properly. And then that would be a healthier way for us to have a dialogue, right? That demonstrates the fact that I am high functioning in my ability to communicate and process my feelings real time versus throwing my mic.
If you would have used that, that would have been great, but you kind of stepped out, and I get that. But
right, if I throw my mic and then I'm like, what the heck, this is my show, how dare you?
How dare you say anything counter to what my narrative is?
I'm right.
Yes, I'm right all the time. It's my show.
You get it. So anyway, you know, you guys are tuned into the Urban Heat 98.1 FM. This is Conversations with Coach La. I got my good friend, Mr. Hakim, in here, Masters in Public Policy, you know, to talk to me about the intersection and the power of balance, entrepreneurship, fatherhood, romantic life, dating, and all that good stuff that he got going on. So we got some people on the live. Thank you, Miss Vella Ray.
And we're at Urban Heat,
yes,
98.1 FM in the beautiful Hyde Park Westinghouse Plaza. So shout out to everybody from Urban Heat 98.1 FM.
That part. He got people on his live and stuff. So those that are on the live, you know, they could jump on. He could tell y'all to jump on.
Conversations with Coach LA.
Yes,
over
Urban
at Urban Heat.
Make sure y'all are following the Urban Heat page, because we got Bella Ray in the chat. We got Carlos in the chat. Miss Sandra's in the chat. Opal's in the chat. Y'all can jump in there.
And it's a beautiful studio, by the way. Y'all have it laid out in here.
Thank you.
I like the way y'all did this. This is very mature and grown up, because I've been in some spaces and you know, coming from a audio engineering and broadcast background, I'd be like, WTF, but this is nice.
Well, we appreciate you. Shout out to Mr. Marv Neal.
I like this.
You know, he does his thing.
Shout out to the Urban Heat team. Y'all did a great job.
Yes, he has put blood, sweat, and tears and
it shows
to this design. Him and DJ Wade too. Shout out to them for inspiration.
It shows.
So
a lot of good minds behind this. A lot of good minds.
A lot of great minds. So make sure you guys are following the Urban Heat. You can also listen live on iHeartRadio. So any of you that are having a hard time getting this, or your Wi-Fi is acting crazy, just download the app, iHeartRadio app, follow the Urban Heat, and you can listen live from the iHeartRadio app. All right. So you know, what I love about juicy conversations. I love juicy conversations that, you know, that spark you to think about various perspectives. So now that we sort of opened up this whole idea of balance, and you do a lot of work in the community with other entrepreneurs and things of that nature. How do you think, since you don't want to use my word, but I'm gonna use it anyway, how do you think their mental health and their ability to manage, to balance, like, so these emotions, how does that impact their business? Because if we don't want to say talk about low and high functioning, and we know that you need to be able to manage your emotions, being an entrepreneur is definitely a whirlwind emotions.
It really is.
Dealing with your customers, dealing with just your own stress level, and just everything that we deal with. You have to have the ability to really take on a lot of stress to still show up every day when things don't always seem like they're even going to work.
Right. I would say this, right? The first thing that worked for me was understanding where my skills, talents, and abilities ended and where others would pick up the pressure, right? And pick up the slack where I didn't have that necessary skill set nor the background in executing on particular deliverables that goes with being an entrepreneur, right? Like, I have a business school background, so I try to, you know, teach people about the administrative part, the legal structure, your accounting, how to connect your marketing, your sales, understanding how to read your balance sheet, your income statement, your statement of cash flows, like all of the stuff that makes a business a real business. I try to teach them those pieces, which is the secret sauce to like having something. Now, a person can have great art, a person can have a great product or service, but if you don't know how to pitch it and get a customer and actually sell your services or products and make that an active, consistent thing, then entrepreneurship is going to be frustrating because you want to be successful, but you also want to have processes in place that take the stress off of your back.
So he's getting all into the operational side and logistical thing.
Yeah.
I'm taking a whole step back because I think your mindset, right? Your mindset, and because I'm both a psychotherapist and I'm a business/life coach.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what shifted me to go into becoming a licensed independent clinical social worker and not just a life coach is that people get stuck.
Yeah.
Right? Because one, they're tired, two, because of mental health underlying things. And when I say mental health, I'm talking about insecurities, I'm talking about fears, I'm talking about environmental factors that are at play that's pulling from them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always just the balance sheets and not knowing how to sell, but
right.
You got a business meeting
right.
with a potential client and you trying to co-parent and
right.
your co-parent is hating
right.
and saying they're supposed to get the kids, and then all of a sudden they say they ain't going to pick up the kids.
Right.
And so you got to be someplace else. How do
Yeah.
you navigate, get into where you need to be? Now you got to pick up the phone and call one of your support systems and say, hey, can you get the kids? And they go, well, where's the baby daddy at?
Right. Right. So
you don't want to say where the baby daddy is because the
Right.
shame around this fool doing this to you again. And you
Yeah.
don't want to hear them say, I told you so.
Yeah.
So you can't deal with all of these emotions. So what do?
So
You end up not communicating with the business partner with like you need to do. End up not asking for help.
right.
And you end up sabotaging your own business for your own inability to be able to deal with all of the stresses that's going on in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately, guess what happens? Things go south. Right. You're frustrated. The business is not doing well. And now you're reaching out to say someone like yourself or
right.
me.
Okay.
To figure out why is everything not working. And what I find is when you get there and you start unpacking this with the person, the hardest part is the preparation and planning for, you got this unhealthy relationship and this isn't the first time that your co-parent has done this to you.
So I
gave you a whole scenario.
Yeah. You gave me a beautiful scenario. I say with what I just heard from you is, one, you have to create healthy boundaries, right?
Okay, sounds good.
We have a thing about not creating healthy boundaries, and because we don't create healthy boundaries, we tend to bring or initiate more stress on ourselves than needed because of the fact we don't institute boundaries and we don't communicate with individuals correctly, because we communicate at times when we might be in a high intense stressed situation.
Okay, where did you get that the person didn't have boundaries?
No, I'm saying like we don't create boundaries. Like,
so in my scenario though.
But let me finish because I want to be clear. I think your scenario is perfect for what I'm trying to say.
Okay, go ahead.
I say in that situation, you have to be mindful of the fact that if you haven't created the necessary boundaries for yourself, then, and the respect level is there, you also have to be able to communicate far ahead of the stress and the situation that might bring the stress. You need to have quiet conversations or comfortable conversations, or sometimes difficult conversations with the counterpart, so that if that does arise, it's not an issue because you've already teased out, scenario A, scenario B, scenario C, if that came about. So sometimes we have to talk through things and say, so what if I'm late? Or what if the bus doesn't come? Or what if this happens? What are we going to do? Do we have a plan B if the plan A doesn't work for us? And if the partner or the co-parent that you're parenting with says, hey, I might be able to step in and do it this way, you might be able to say, hey, I can have this person come in and do it that way. You have to be able to find ways to how you say, like, things can get complicated, but if you have the right conversations earlier, you can uncomplicate a complicated situation.
Okay.
I'm gonna stay there. So
I hear all of that. That sounds good, but I'm still gonna stand that being able to deal with things not going your way is more about a emotional regulation issue.
Yeah.
Right. So
It could be.
that ball dropping and the anxiety and the stress around the ball dropping and then getting upset, disappointed, angry leads to your inability to strategize and think that through. So when you're saying it's a boundary issue, I hear you on the one hand, but I'm also saying that's an emotional regulation issue, which is you take several deep breaths, you get past the whole I got to call and ask for help and realize that people have said to you, I'll help you if you need me. And you can start it off with, I already know. And right now I don't need this. And maybe this is where your boundary comes in. I don't need a speech right now. I just need to know, can you go pick up the kids? I got to get to this very important business meeting that's like important for my business. And we can circle back on how this fell apart. But for the most part, if they're already on the list to pick up the kids, they've already agreed that if you're in a crunch or you're in a bind, to call them and they'll do it. I'm speaking from experience that I had to get over the fact of my son's father dropping the ball and to focus more so that I had 10 people on this list that had agreed to help me out. Call one of those people, make it happen. So what if I have to get the support systems to be called in? And maybe at some point I just needed to accept that he was not reliable. And as much as that created shame and guilt about who my co-parent was, that wasn't a reflection of me anymore. Like, we all make mistakes. Sometimes you don't pick the best person to go and have a child with, or they don't show up the way you thought.
Right.
You got to be able to move past that. Another example that I have, personal example, is being in class and bringing my son to school.
Okay.
Right. And feeling some type of way about that and almost about to drop out because I was so embarrassed about having to bring my son to class.
Okay.
And thank God rest his soul, my father said, any place that won't accept you as a mother is not a place you need to be anyway. You bring your child and you make it work. So I started bringing toys and coloring books and found me a little seat in the back of the class and I went to class. Right. So I think a lot of these things that make people not go after their dreams and goals is because they get hit with adversity. And when they get with this adversity, it's such a monkey wrench. It's such a hurdle that they feel like they can't jump over it. And most of why they can't jump over it is the heaviness of the shame and the guilt or asking for help.
Well, let me say this. I hear you. I appreciate what you said, and I respect the resilience that you displayed through your trials and tribulations. And we can move on. We can continue.
I love how he did that. Y'all see that?
Yeah.
That's a man for y'all. That's a nice way for a man to say, I hear you, baby. Go ahead. Now let's talk about something else.
Yeah. We could
All right. So transitioning. So we've talked about entrepreneurship. We talked about the power of balance. Right. Let's talk about in this last half of the show, how losing someone impacts that balance, because we can have it all together.
Yeah.
And the balance is going good. And we both share the loss of a parent and how that pushing through that. And you said something because he's doing a documentary and I want you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
How we put on the armor and we get it done and we don't really process the death until everything's done. And then it's like, oh shoot, like what did I just go through? And how that impacts your ability to stay balanced.
Well, I would say this, like anytime anyone has lost mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, it is a very deep emotional blow to the spirit and soul. And it can either make you, break you, or send you into a very unstable state for a very long time. Like people just don't get over the death of parents immediately, right? I lost my mother in 2017 and I really didn't come out of a very foggy place until 2021. So it took me almost 4 years. And not only did I have to deal with the loss, I also had to deal with the time spent and the time unspent that now we regret because we're like, damn, I should have spent a little bit more time with my moms or my pops, or I should have said this or did this. Like we have our own regrets as children because there were unanswered questions that we may have had, but because of the fact during the time of their existence, we took for granted them being here and not knowing that at some point in time they would not be here anymore, and they couldn't answer those questions, and they couldn't be able to address some of the inner, turmoil that might have been able to get addressed if they were there, present, alive, and well, and can connect with you.
I agree. I think I talk often about the stages of grief.
Yeah.
And I think when you talk about, wanting to spend more time with them, that's the bargaining stage of just wishing things had went different.
Mm-hmm.
Going through, maybe I should have did this, or if I had done that, maybe this or that wouldn't have happened, or
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have said this. I wish I would have got a chance to ask them this. And I think, these things can throw you off of balance for a minute. You kind of sometimes it's like a hiccup, or you sort of can lose traction because you got to slow down sometimes just to feel and pause. Or it just, for me, it felt like what's all of it for?
Right. Well, see, that was one thing that I had to deal with too, was when my mother passed, and this is something that I had to, like, I it stays imprinted in my head, is I was 4 days away from walking the stage for my bachelor's in business administration and entrepreneurship at Sawyer Business School at Suffolk University. I called my mother on Monday, and she was planning to schedule the ride, the ride for the tea, because she was wheelchair bound at the time. I called her on Monday. Graduation was on Sunday, and I got the news from my sister that she passed on that Wednesday. So I had to deal with pulling myself together, mom's passing, going to the house, removing all of her jewelry and all that, because when the funeral home comes, they take them as is, so you got to pull everything off of them. So we had to pull. My mother actually passed away in her bed, in her sleep, and it was based off of like a cardiopulmonary something, but the death certificate said was several complications. The thing that really was kind of put me in a state of just reacting was the fact that I had to get there. Funeral parlor was picking her up. I had to remove all the items off of her. I had to help them remove the body out of the home, put it into the I forgot the name of the hearse. I had to put it in the back of the hearse, and I had to see her off, and I had to plan step A, B, C, D, and still pull it together to walk across the stage for my bachelor's degree on Sunday. And my family, all of us had to like kind of get into this weird reaction formation mode where mom just passed, Hakim's graduating on Sunday. We got to deal with her being removed from the home and going to the funeral home to be prepped. We got to figure the logistics out for that. And we have to still be in our best state of mind and support him as he walks across the stage to graduate with his bachelor's. And I swear to God, I'm selfish, and this may sound selfish, and I'm like, damn, only if she could have stayed alive one more week to see me graduate. Because she saw me graduate with my associate's degree from Roxbury Community College. Shout out to all the Roxbury Community College folks that I got my associates with. Then I moved on to Suffolk. I got my bachelor's, and I moved on to Tufts University to get my master's. But that was critical for me. She cried when she saw me walk across the stage when I got my associates, and she was so happy and so proud. And I would have loved to see her in that same state of happiness and pride. And she was tearful when she saw me get my associates. And I was like, word, I want to see this again. I want to do this again for her, because I know that it brought so much joy to her. And 3 days between she passed on Wednesday and I walked across the stage on Sunday, and I was so mad. I'm like, God damn it, I'm selfish, but I would love for her to see that, Yeah. So it really put me in a state of like confusion, hate, resentment, anger. But I also had to figure out, like, okay, my mom's passed. I still got to deal with the reality of burying her, and the finances that it takes. And she was not just in a situation of wanting to be buried; she wanted to be buried in the South. So we had a viewing here in Boston over at Davis and then we had to pull it all together and give them the necessary money to transfer the body to the south so she can be buried next to her mother, because we have a family plot in Florida that all of my great grandmother, my grandmother, my mother they're all buried at. And I don't know if I'm gonna like have my body transferred to the south. I might just be like, listen, take me to the closest place. And let my people come see me. Let my people come see me in Boston. I don't want to have them traveling all the way down to the Panhandle to be like going up into some cemetery hill, because I think they're buried over a little place called Cherry Hill over in Florida, outside of Chipley, Florida. And I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going that far.
Right.
Like, I don't know if I want my kids and my loved ones to go that far.
Right. And
I'm
you
like,
see all that is involved to make that it happen.
Please.
But
listen,
I think we were talking earlier, me and my siblings had to come together and, thank God for education and know-how and just intellect and the ability to coordinate things, because I really had to pull all that together
and think quick on your feet,
and compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize. Yes, I got you, baby. I got you. Compartmentalize.
It don't
and just don't roll off the tongue as quick as you want it to. Yeah.
But my feelings about what's going on with my mom and what you described, it made me think about, we do these things often where we're able to manage multiple emotions at once.
Yeah.
It's funny, certain ones we do better than others. There's certain times where you can pull out this unbelievable strength to be able to manage conflict. And then there's other times it's much harder, and getting to know thyself, where you need the support. And sometimes it's just trial and error. You just never know. I think for me, I never knew that I would be able to do what I did when my father died.
Yeah.
That was a different type of strength that I didn't even know I possessed.
We have it.
To be able to plan a funeral, pick out caskets, to look
flowers,
at
florists, headstones,
and to be able to do that with grace.
Yeah.
And because my father had done it for others, that I felt like I can hold this together to make sure this goes right.
I can do this.
And me and my sister did, and we look back and we're like, we were each other's rocks.
Yeah.
Because our other siblings were having a much harder time. It's 6 of us.
Yeah.
And I know my dad would have been proud, and how we handled it. There's actually a headstone now for him and my grandfather. They're in the same plot together.
Mm-hmm. Are they buried locally or?
Yeah, they're buried right up the street.
Okay.
In Hyde Park.
Okay.
But I say all of this because a lot of times people think when they see individuals like ourselves, right, that are doing things in the community, that sometimes they don't know all that we have gone through.
They don't know the pain.
Managing to show up, and they think that we haven't gone through anything or that it was easy or something. I don't know why people think that way.
Right.
But I want to really remind people that's listening, because I know I'm talking to somebody tonight. You don't realize how much strength you have and that you've already survived 100% of your worst days. There's something that you've gone through that you probably think back, if you look back and you go, you never thought you would have made it.
Mm-hmm.
You never thought you were going to get through it. You thought it was the worst thing that could ever happen to you. And you were on the other side, or somebody right now feels like it's the worst thing that's happening to them.
Absolutely.
And they want to throw in the towel. And I just want to really encourage you that there are resources. You can reach out to me. I know here in Massachusetts, we got all types of resources, 988. We got the Samaritans, the hotline, because this is still, suicide.
And we also have like different modalities. We have healing circles. Like actually, there is a Center for Restorative Justice out of Suffolk University's institute that they have, that I used to do healing circle and restorative practices with individuals who are dealing with grief, individuals who had lost a loved one to gun violence, individuals who may have to deal with like the diagnosis of a terminally ill diagnosis. These things are real things within families where you have to find natural and homeopathic ways to deal with, but also you have to like tap into like a lot of the indigenous practices. Like we tend to think things very linear and like very like American, and we don't know that there are deep Native American, South American, Central American, Indian, Black Native American, like modalities that we could use or activate that could help us through things, but we only see things from what we've been taught and what we know, and we think that we just have to hold on to it because I don't know anything else. Well, brother, why don't you, brother or sister, why don't you take some time out to see how within the heritage of other cultures, how they dealt with that. There are thousands of books and readings and teachings to help people navigate and move through difficult things like death, and also ways to deal with mourning and also express yourself while going through mourning.
You mentioned so many things. I think we Google a lot of things. We watch a lot of things on social media. Look into these things. I challenge you to really, look into different ways in which you can manage any emotion, right? And just being able to see your emotions beyond just this polarized black, white, and there is a gray, right? But yeah, man, there's a lot of great things here in Massachusetts. I know we have listeners all over, but you can Google just about anything. I mean, they got BetterHelp, which is I think that's pretty much national. You can tap into talking through what you're experiencing to look for solutions.
Absolutely.
To look for ways in which to help you with the balance. And I think balance, again, your balance and my balance will look different. Right? It's not cookie cutter, but it's possible. It's possible.
And moving into like the documentary, and I just want to shout out also my boy Damon Kaiser. We're putting together the Commonwealth Golfing Coalition concepts, and we're going to be working with individuals through the William J. Devine Clubhouse to just find ways to use golfing and the practice of golfing as therapeutic to help young brothers and sisters and young adults, because we feel as though there's a lot of different ways to like deal with things, but you can also deal with things in a very healthy and holistic way, like practicing and learning how to play golf. So shout out to my man Damon. We're working on that and trying to figure that out. So, and getting to the documentary piece. The documentary was based off of me having a childhood vision of myself when I was very young, and now being older and reflecting back on that and kind of zipping up and figuring out like how much of this have you achieved, how much of this is real, how much of it has been unaddressed. And I mean like life goals and visions of yourself and accomplishments and things of that nature. And I'm like, oh, you've done a lot. Like it wasn't like a lot of fanfare and paparazzi, but when I look back on a lot of what I've done, I'm like, bro, no, you did that already. Like you did it. It wasn't no light on you, wasn't no lights, camera, action, but you took the time, you actually committed to getting through and doing this thing, you accomplished it and you moved on. So the documentary is kind of like reflecting back. So it's kind of like a thing where I'm 48 now and it's reflecting back to my childhood, and it's like a 30, maybe 35, 40 year of like capturing pieces of it and bringing people in to say, yeah, I was there when he did this thing. No, because I like to have like living witnesses, but I also like to like know that I'm filtering what I think it was through the eyes and ears of other people who are actually there, because sometimes we can see it our own way and be selfish, but I'm like, nah, bring other people on that was there with you so that you can have another perspective on it.
I love that you are doing the documentary. I think one of the things I learned from my dad's passing was to put my own footprint of how I want to be remembered.
Right.
And we don't have to wait until we're like 80, 90 to do a memoir, right? We can start any day writing, your books, my poetry, like this show.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like even you coming on, like there's now 2 episodes that go part of like your ancestors will be able to Google this. And this is part of the archives where they can hear your voice, hear your thought process, hear your perspective on things.
My daughters and my son will be like, oh, that was Pops?
Right.
Oh, he was on Urban Heat in 2024?
Just having clippings of my dad's voice. You don't realize until someone's no longer here, just having their voice and hearing them talk is such a
beautiful thing.
Yeah. And most people that get that are like famous people or like celebrities. You can start that right now.
Yeah, you can.
Videotaping, spending time with your family, talking to your kids,
Yep.
archiving these
Archiving
things,
yourself. Yeah, archiving. Yeah.
pictures, all that stuff is so important. So don't miss out on that. Go spend time with your family and document. Some people, talk about Facebook or talk about, all of this, but it's a great way to have memories, positive memories. So think about what you're posting and think about how you represent yourself to the world. If this was your legacy and this was your obituary, is this what you would want people to write about you? Is this the last thing you want them to see that you posted?
And do you want them to interpret it to the public, or do you want to interpret it to the public through your voice, through your vision? Because some people can write a narrative for you, and it's like, that's not the narrative I want written. I want it to be written this way. So it's better to be in front of something and not be behind something and be like, once he passed, we're gonna put something together for him or her to show what we felt as though this person's life was. And I'm like, nah, we need to make sure that it's done by the individual and not by someone else that was secondary, or within the vicinity of the individual,
Yeah. So balance.
Yeah.
Tonight we talked about balance, entrepreneurship, fatherhood, dating, you name it. Conversations with Coach La. It's always something to spark your perspective shift.
Absolutely.
Get you to think, get you to ponder. Until next week, we'll have another conversation. We won't have Hakim back, not this time. We're gonna give him a rest.
Give me a rest.
He might want to come back on the virtual couch at some point.
The virtual couch again.
Any closing thoughts? We got like a minute.
I want to say to everyone, if you get the opportunity to sit and take some time out to reflect on the good, the bad, the evil, and the indifference of who you are as a being, sometimes it's good to just be transparent.
The Urban Heat. Expect the unexpected. Unorthodox radio from Boston and beyond. Meet 981fm.com and IHeart Station.
Hate to cut you off, my brother, but you know what that means. You took longer than a minute.
We a wrap.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Till next conversation. Y'all keep betting on yourself. We ran out of time once again, but I love y'all. Keep on keeping it locked here on the Urban Heat 98.1 FM. Tune in tomorrow for the Morning Cafe. This shenanigans is always amazing. Signing out your favorite around the way therapist. See you next week for another conversation. Bye.
Love it.
Say bye. Say bye. Waving the camera.
I love it.